Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another horror indie spotlight. Today, I have Ronald Rossman with us today. He's with the Be Your Own Hero production. He's a director. He has numerous movies out there, but today we're going to talk about yet a movie right now that he's in the works in January to be starting, and that's You're It. Ronald, thank you for coming to the Horror Room.
Thanks for having me. It's an absolute honor. So thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your new project, You're It.
So You're It is a what I would call a classic slasher, and its roots were born from my appreciation for John Carpenter's original Halloween. And it's really funny how it came to be was because I'm not a slasher fan, so to speak. But me and my friend, who's the executive producer, Greg Bo Watson, he's a illustrator for Marvel, Zenoscope, Fox, 20th Century Fox Television. He did animations for The Watchmen, stuff like that. We
Nice.
were talking about. You remember that series that came out on Netflix called "The Movies That Made Us"?
Yes.
So we were watching the Halloween version,
Hmm.
and we were talking and saying, wouldn't it be cool if someone made a movie that went back to those roots? Because Carpenter's Halloween was a true slasher before the gore era. Because if you notice, there's not a lot of
Okay.
gore in it. It's
Not a
more
lot at all.
exactly more psychological, more it kind of built it invented the jump scare, so to speak. It was the
Hmm.
film that launched a thousand machetes, as I always say. And so he wanted to return to that while also paying homage to some of the horror greats in contemporary, which would be Saw, Final Destination, horror films that are cerebral. They make you think. They're terrifying. They're unpredictable. And so we thought, why don't we create a killer who not only enjoys stalking his victims but setting traps for them. And
Wow.
so
Okay.
Your It was born. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The character is, we feel, one of the most original characters to come out of horror because it's very hard to do something new in horror. You know this.
Yes.
It's been so played out. I mean, there's still some great horror films out there, but to come up with something truly unique is incredibly difficult. So
It's almost
we really,
impossible.
yeah, you're right, 100%. And we really came up with something that I think is really going to be a kind of refresh. We also added some Southern Gothic into it. We used a Southern Gothic legend to kind of tie in because we're filming the movie in North and South Carolina, mostly at Lake Hickory Haunts, my T-shirt. Um,
Okay.
and it's
That's my home state,
yeah, yeah, okay, very good,
Northern
awesome.
Carolina.
You got to check out Lake Hickory Haunts. It's absolutely amazing.
Okay.
But we're filming the whole thing there, and what how it starts is a film company that's making a retro 80s style horror film in the uh, genre of Halloween goes to this haunted house, and as they're filming this movie, the killer begins to stalk them. So it's kind of meta. It's a film within a film. So even our teaser trailer kind of that's the teaser trailer for the actually film they're making. That's the film inside the film. So we thought that
Okay.
was another cool aspect. So a lot of moving parts, but a very I know it sounds complicated, but it's a very simple story. We're creating characters that you care about. Because one of the things I miss in early horror was that you didn't want to see the victims get killed, right? It was like, oh my god,
Hmm.
I love that character. That's what we want. The thing um, as a prime example of that, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, again, you like the
Hmm.
characters, you related to the characters. It was kind of like the Breakfast Club of horror, you know? So
Yeah.
we wanted to do that with this film so that there is a real kind of connection with the characters. They're not perfect, but they're not people like, oh, I wish that guy would get it or that girl would get it.
Yeah.
And when you think you know the final girl, you don't know the final girl. That's a really cool aspect too. So we wanted to keep that unpredictability, which is again incredibly difficult in any kind of film, let alone horror. So that's kind of it encapsulated.
Okay. Now, you said you're actually filming this in a actual haunted attraction.
Yep, at Lake Hickory Haunts in Hickory, South Carolina. They're the premier haunt in the Carolinas. It's this huge circular haunt. It's a trail you go through. You go indoor, outdoor, underground. It surrounds a lake, a man-made lake, and we film in every single aspect of it. They have an alien aspect, they have a Mad Max style aspect, they have a slaughterhouse, they have a new clown house they just opened up, which is
Nice.
insane. It's like killer clowns from outer space on meth. It's an LSD. It's just insane.
So I gotta
Not
check
that
it
I've
out.
used either
I
of those
have to.
drugs. Yeah, yeah,
I
and
have to check
it's a
it out.
great value, and I'm telling you, if you go, you will not be disappointed. But Ryan, who runs it and owns it, he has been so gracious. We filmed Stroh's Sister Cinema there, and now we're filming this whole film there, and hopefully another film down the line that I have called Don't Look, which is still in script format. That's going to be a couple years off, but we're hoping to film that there as well.
Awesome, awesome. And you actually just mentioned Stroh Sinister Cinema. That's a excellent series you have on streaming on Amazon right now.
Correct. That one is so this was the one only season that Rob could do, which is heartbreaking. Rob's had some health issues. He's in Texas. So unfortunately he's not going to be in season 2, so we'll be transitioning it to Sinister Cinema. So the first season is Rob, and we ended on it in such a way that almost accidentally that Rob can still be kind of in the series without being in the series. But I'm old school. I'm Gen X, just border boomer, and so I grew up with Soupy Sales, um, Svengali, Elvira, the old horror hosts.
Hmm.
Um, and so I wanted to create a well, Rob wanted to create a horror host series, but we know that a lot of the young folks don't care about classic horror like you and I do. Like that is, for us sustenance.
Hmm.
So I thought, why don't we add that with Mystery Science Theater 3000 with Rift Tracks and
Good luck.
create this really cool Thank you. So
Hmm.
the first thing we had to do was find the public domain films, which we were able to find 8, really good ones. And then we did these completely improv skits that take place in between the movie to break the movie up. And during the movie, Pop, the poltergeist, the projector, which is this ghost that possesses the projector that Rob has, comments on the movie. And so you get that commentary, you get the skit element, and you get that kind of nostalgia of those old horror host things. And I'm really proud of it. Came out really good. Rob did phenomenal. It's got Chuck Sloan, who plays Wolfie. It's got Paul Hurley, who does the voice of Pop. We've
Nice.
had Misty Yates in it as Bella Lugosi, the 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 SJW vampire. She's hilarious. Um, we have Alfredo, the adolescent abnormal semi-coordinated tortoise, because we did Gamera, so we had to have
Hmm.
a turtle there to make fun of the turtles. We've got Daphne Reeder. She plays Cindy Klops, a Monstergram and Clip Clop star. So there's all these kind of kooky characters that we added, and they really everyone did such an amazing job. It was so fun to film because there's no script; it's an outline. Here's the episode we're doing. Make comments, and they just did phenomenal. And again, filmed completely at Lake Hickory Haunts. So I'm excited about we're on episode 3, which is the
Hmm.
last one we did was called Meet and Eat, and it's about the film is George Romero's original Night of the Living Dead. So we poke fun at that, and then we do a send off on Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen. It's called Hex Kitchen, and 2 cannibal chefs are competing for the worst cook, and so that takes place throughout the movie. And so that's our third, and our fourth one's going to be Gamera, um, and that's going to star Alfredo, who is Clarence Adams, the adolescent abnormal semi-coordinated tortoise. We actually had the band that did the soundtrack for How to Train Your Dragon for Hulu. They did an
Hmm.
original song for this that is a mock-up of the remember the really cool it's one of the most memorable theme songs, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They did
Hmm.
a whole takeoff
Love it.
on that. It's phenomenal. So that'll be 4, and then we'll have about 3 more episodes after that. After we get all 7 done, we're also going to submit it to the Film Hub to try to get on Tubi and some other streaming services. But
Okay.
this will be, as far as Rob starring in it, this will be the first and last season, and then hopefully we'll be able to get him a little bit of ADR for the second season. But the primary star of that will be Wolfie. He's going to kind of take over and continue the series because we have some really cool things planned for season 2. I want to do with season 2 more of a modern Munsters update. Remember the Munsters?
Yes.
We want to
Hmm.
do like a horror sitcom and make while parroting 80s sitcoms and then add the movie element. So it's we have a
Oh,
new
that sounds
character called
amazing.
Bubba Stein, the redneck Frankenstein. We have the mummy, who's like this uh, style focused mummy, and they're trying to find ways to be on the cutting edge of fashion. So we've got a lot of cool characters popping in. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you've been picked up for season two on that?
well, the great thing about Stroh's is we are Amazon is distributing it, so we have right now control. So when
Okay.
we go to Film Hub with it, and if let's say Tubi picks it up, then
Hmm.
hopefully they will also want a second season. So I guess it'll be
Okay.
how well it sells on Film Hub. And the great thing about Film Hub, to give them a little plug, is for independent filmmakers who are trying to make movies, and distribution is so difficult. Making the movie you think is the hardest part. It's not. It's getting your film out there
Hmm.
um, in a good format with a good distributor. Film Hub, you could actually submit your film to them, and if it's selected and used, they have an 80-20 cut. That's 80 to you and 20 to them, and they distribute to some of the largest outlets that are there. Roku, Hulu, Tubi. I think they do Hulu. I'm not sure. Amazon, a bunch. Shutter. So I don't think they do Netflix, but Netflix is super hard to get into anyway. But so that they act as kind of your distributor, and that helps guys like me because I don't have an advertising department. I don't have a marketing department.
Hmm.
You're looking at it. So to be able to do that is phenomenal. So I highly recommend. And the great thing is you can do seminars with them for free, and they also offer free customer service support. So you always have someone to talk to, which in this time and day, just
Hmm.
getting a human being on the phone for regular customer service is impossible.
Possible.
But Film Hub, they have that available. So huge plug to them.
It's crazy. Like I talk to a lot of indie horror directors, and some love Film Hub, and some don't like Film Hub. So,
If you can
and
get
it's
your if you can get your film like my friend Paul Hurley, who has Cryptic Pictures, they had their Wendigo film picked up by Terror Films, and if that happens, that's great because Terror will do all the work. But getting your film picked up is so hard. So
it
Film
is.
Hub is a great start. The other thing I recommend, and you probably have heard this before, is film festivals. There's a cost
Hmm.
involved. Devil's Daughter, we won 28 awards. Each festival you have to pay to get in. I did amazing amounts of research to pick the right festivals, not ones that we would win right away, but ones that would actually challenge us and ones that had credibility. Because there's a lot of festivals out there that people just do to get the laurel. I didn't want to do that. I wanted our film to have that credibility. But you're talking about 700-800 bucks to enter. We entered 42 festivals. We won
Hmm.
28. Not bad. And that's about 700 bucks. So anyway, with the great thing about Film Hub is when you put it on there, there's no upfront cost.
Hmm.
So, but I haven't had a bad experience with them yet. So right now, all I can say is the good things. But nothing's infallible, right?
Exactly.
So
Everyone has their preference.
yeah,
So, Ron, I'm going to take you down a rabbit hole. This is
okay.
something I've always been curious of, and I feel like a lot of people who are not in filmmaking industry are curious about. So, I interview quite a few individuals who are in the horror community, and I'm in the groups and so forth. And I see a lot of individuals who have my movie has won 20 awards from different film festivals. You actually pointed with something. Um, do some of these awards festivals just give it to anyone?
I don't know. I know that when
What's
we looked
easier?
up, yeah. So I would think that if it's a first year festival and they're not getting a lot of entries,
Yeah.
it's like any other game. You play the game. We did a couple of first year festivals, but we went with ones that had a lot of entries because I didn't I wanted my film to win on merits. I wasn't interested in
Yeah.
the laurel. I wanted so all the film festivals that we were part of had proven track records, had solid reputations, had a good amount of entries. Now, a lot of them are virtual because of COVID. A lot of festivals went that way, and some will warn if it's strictly a virtual festival, maybe that's not the festival you want to be part of. But we're in a new era where
Mhm.
virtual is virtual. I mean, look at how people are working remote or hybrid. So, and I can't attend festivals sometimes. I don't have the funds. So if I can get into a virtual festival that's got a reputation, I will do that. But yes, like any system, it can be worked, and I think you do yourself a disservice by doing that, because I do think that the people who matter will notice that and will call you on it. It may be oppressive to a layman.
Mhm.
Oh my God, they've got 20, 30 awards. But then if you're trying to get your film recognized and distributed, they're going to see, oh, that film festival, or oh, you did it that way. And I don't want, the two things you own in this life are your integrity and your identity. The only two things you own, the only two things you give away. And so my integrity is very important, as is my identity as not just a person, but as a director. So I want to make sure everything I do to the utmost is pure, transparent, and credible.
And that's something, I've always been curious as a movie watcher, especially an indie movie watcher. Even before I started doing interviews, I would see a movie pop up and it was like won 50 awards, and then
Right.
I would watch it and it would be the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, what
Right.
award? I mean, is this, you know,
Yeah. It's the same thing with there's been comments about because of the writer strike, because of the fact that streaming is desperate to get content. There are films on streaming right now
are
that,
horrible?
yeah, and you don't. And now for someone like me, that's hopeful. That means if I make a quality piece, I've got a better shot of getting it on there. But my
Mhm.
fear also is that it's going to give us a stigma of, oh, it's going to be, a subpar film. You can do a top-notch film. You saw The Devil's Daughter. That was a
Mhm.
$27,000 budget. Stroh's was a $5,000 budget. You can do a good film if you have the right equipment, the right writers, the right directors, the right cast, the right crew. You can do a low budget film that looks amazing.
Mhm.
But you have to want to. And Troma made an entire industry off of making kind of the cheesy horror, and I respect him for that because he broke all the rules. But that's a Troma film, unless you're wanting to sell to Lloyd. Um,
Yes.
I want my film to be on, to be. I don't want it to be, poo, blood and honey. I want my film to be up there with films like Cobweb and films like what Paul did to Wendigo, films that are
Mhm.
people like, holy crap. Um, I want my films to have the same impact that Seven had on audiences, where that ending, just you remember that ending,
Mhm.
or Event Horizon had, where it's one of the most disturbing films out there. I want to have that. The Thing, which is now timeless. I want to have that kind of. If I make one film that good, I'd be happy. You know, but that's why a lot of filmmakers, people like Ron, you only put like one or two things out a year. I'd much rather. I'm not the kind of filmmaker that crank out 5 to 10 films. I just can't. I'm too much of a perfectionist. I'm too much. I want to tweak everything as best as possible. So I'm quite happy putting out less if the quality is better. Now I'm not saying those filmmakers aren't top quality, because there's some
Yeah.
filmmakers out there that can turn out five and they all
And
look like
crank them.
studio quality. Absolutely, I know a couple right on top of my head. But I'm not that kind of of movie maker.
But you have a lot of them that's going what I call the Adam Sandler way, which is
Yeah,
it's
good
just
point.
it's
Yeah,
just volume, and it's quantity over quality.
right.
And unfortunately, in the streaming service, it's hard to like. I'm a big Tubi guy. It's hard to weed the bad indie horror films from the good ones,
Right.
and like a lot of times you will skip, and that's why I have this channel to weed out the good ones, because and tell viewers these are the good ones to watch,
Right.
and these are the directors, because there's a lot of great movies are on Tubi and streaming services that are getting missed because they're getting bogged down with the crap,
Uh-huh.
and
And
they're getting
yeah, it's
associated with the crap.
yeah, and that's problematic. There used to be I used to say all the time that the for indie films, the better the movie poster, the worse the movie is. You ever
Hmm.
notice that? Like it has a
Yes,
banging poster, and
100%.
then the movie, and I think that's a good barometer sometimes, because you know what an indie film is capable of, and if the poster is overselling it, that
Yes.
is a key. So that's why you'll
Yes.
notice a lot of my posters are very simplistic. I don't share a lot in my. I don't believe in telling the whole movie in a trailer. I still believe in the growing up the mystery of the trailer, just showing key things. Um, I don't believe in spoilers, which is difficult even with NDAs anymore.
It is.
But I'm old school, and time will tell if that's a marketable thing anymore. Because with the advent of short format videos and reels, attention spans getting shorter, Gen Z and now Gen Alpha looking for much more what I would call chaotic content.
Hmm.
I may be a man of time. We'll see. But I do believe, because you've seen it, I've seen it. Things are they're secular. They always come
Yeah.
back. And so, like right now, if you notice, practical effects are coming back in a big way, and people are now kind of rebelling against CGI movies.
Hmm.
And the reason is because you can tell a CGI movie anymore. Ant Man the Wasp is a prime example. It's so CGI that
Yeah.
you can't even take in everything going on. Um, so that's problematic. And now you've got Sony just came out with they did a Ghostbusters piece that's a camera less piece. It's all rendered. And so I am not a computer programmer. I will not be able to make that kind of film. We'll see if audiences gravitate to that.
Jump to that.
And AI is
But
going to play a big part in that as well.
it is. But something that you said. So as a YouTube creator, I can see in my dashboard like any video that did I just freeze or something or
No, you're good.
okay.
You're good. You're good with
Um,
me.
well, okay. All right. There we go. But I can see in my when I post a video, I can see, let's say it's a 30-minute video. I can see how many views I have, how many subscribers came up with, but I also can see the retention rate. And this video right here, when it gets posted, 80% of people have already done, we're in the 20-minute mark, have checked out.
Oh yeah, checked out. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
average person and I've actually seen people who like stay on there for 55 seconds. And I'm like, who in the hell is staying on a video for 55 seconds? Like, who in the hell is checking out that quick?
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Like,
the biggest challenge independent filmmakers are going to have is keeping people's attention, and I'm afraid that we are going. I think there will always be room for features. I just think there's
mhm,
enough of the generations that enjoy that. But you look at what's happening. Take the writer strike out, just in movie theaters, and the fact that how many have lost not millions but billions of dollars now. I mean, I think Disney's down 900 million. The Disney, who would have ever thought Disney would be
mhm,
down 900 million dollars? Um, and you could forget the politics. That does play the culture plays a part in it, but I don't think Tom Cruise made Mission Impossible. And remember Maverick made
mhm,
$1 billion. There is no
yeah,
reason why Mission Impossible should have made $1 billion. Why did Barbie make $1 billion? That one blows my mind. Oppenheimer doesn't blow my mind because I do think it looks like a very well crafted movie. But if you think about it, those are exceptions.
mhm,
I was doing a fun thing where I was looking up, 80s and 80 movies, 80, 82, 83, 85, and you look at the list of movies that are movies we remember that had an impact on our actual daily lives. Can
mhm,
you do that now? You might
yeah,
know two or three. I can name 10 or 15 from 85 that are absolute my favorite movies. Unless you're an absolute cinephile, that's not going to happen. So my fear is that this short format thing is going to become incredibly prevalent because of what you just said. And you're going to see more movie makers, which is going to be very creative, are going to make 30-second movies, minute movies,
and
or
that's what
they'll make
YouTube doing.
episodic movies. Yeah,
But that's what
yeah,
YouTube doing. YouTube is promoting their YouTube Shorts because, like, my age demographic, it tells me what my age demographic who watching my videos. They're between the age of 22 and 45,
yeah,
and that's the millennial and whatever comes after the
yeah.
millennial.
Millennial,
They have a
Gen
bit
Z, and
Gen
Alpha.
Z,
Yeah,
and they have a short attention
right.
span like that. And I remember even speaking to a before I started doing interviews, I spoke to a more experienced horror YouTuber, and his videos are 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And I was talking about doing an interview thing. He goes, "Man, like you're not going to people are not gonna, they're going to check out. That's why I do my videos for 5 minutes." But I like doing this, because
Yeah.
some people are going to watch this. I get a lot of viewers who watch the whole entire
Right.
video. And
And understand too, yes, they're right. And yes, but you look at Tim Cast IRL, Ethan Klein, Mr. Beast, right? Let's three of
hmm
those, three completely different. They have videos out there that are 21, 31, 53 minutes. People watch them all the way through. So
correct.
I do believe once you get your following, if you have an engaging programming, whether it be a guest or a format, you're going to have people watch. But you're right, it's going to be millennial and back. It's not going to be Gen Z, and it's
hmm
not going to be um, Gen Alpha. The only way you're going to pull them in is if you have a short format video that makes them go, "Oh my god!" And I'm guilty of that. I will go on TikTok, and this new thing on TikTok. It's not new. This thing on TikTok where they show clips of movies. I can't
Oh,
tell you
really?
how many movies I went and watched because of that 30, 45-second clip on TikTok. So the smart independent filmmaker, and I'm still getting there.
hmm
You need to be able to use those menus, those options, and if you're not going to make these avant-garde short content films, you need to make short films to drive people to the longer films. And that's what we're doing with
hmm
Devil's Door now. We have clips on TikTok when we don't get copyright struck, which I don't know how because we own everything. But I'm putting pieces of the film on TikTok, and ever since we did that, our numbers started going up again on YouTube. So
Speaking
that does
of,
help.
yeah, and speaking of, you brought it up, the Devil's Daughter, absolutely amazing. I watched it.
Too kind.
Yes, and I'm a comic book fan as well as horror fan, but it's a Harley Quinn story. I'm gonna let you tell us about it.
So that film was originally called Harleen Quinzel, and I was hired to write the film by a director who hadn't really done a lot. We had a parting of the ways, and I had basically copyright the script because he didn't know he didn't add anything to it. He just told me I want these characters in it, and I spent nine was it 9 months? Yeah, I think it was 9 months writing the script. I think it was 9 months. Not 100% sure, but I think anyway. So I tried to market the script. Nobody was interested because like no
Hmm.
one's you can't make a serious comic book film. Nobody cares, right? I think the only one that actually did anything was The Crow, right? The Crow was what I would
hmm
consider. So I shelved it, and then Joaquin Phoenix's Joker came out, which was one of my favorite. I don't even call it a comic film. It's almost like Taxi Driver meets comic book
Yeah.
film. So I think it's a better film than Taxi Driver. I know I'm going to get slammed for that, but I think it's a much better film than Taxi Driver. Um, so at that point, I thought, hey, this is popular. Why don't we try to bring this back? And so my original title was The Devil's Daughter, and so I went back to that. I rewrote the script. I changed a lot of things out. Really focused. I wanted to focus on Harley's trauma and what leads her to become Harley Quinn. So have a true origin tale with a very dark edge, with a kind of warning um, about domestic violence and abuse, because that
hmm
Joaquin Phoenix's film focused on the untreated mental illness. I wanted to focus on to really give um, the impact of what that kind of abuse has. I think sometimes look a little bit too far, but hindsight. But so that when you get to Harley's point, you get why she's a bad guy because she's been abused, she's been abandoned, and she has no reason to be a good guy. And so she takes that trauma where Batman takes it to become a hero. She says, why should I be a hero? And I didn't want to do the kind of bubblegum Harley that's become. I mean, don't get me wrong. I
hmm
love Tara Strong's interpretation. I love Margot Robbie's interpretation. Those are for that. I wanted to do something much darker and much grittier and much more realistic. We still went a little comic booky at the end with the fight scenes. You have to, and those kind of. I mean, at some point you have to go back. I mean,
You
if
do.
you look
Yeah.
at if you look at the first Batman movie, Batman Begins is actually two movies. The first part of the movie or first half is actually wow, that's I could see a Batman character, and then you get into the whole I'm gonna make the whole town fear and the train scene.
Yep.
Like, okay, we're back in comic territory. So you
hmm
you you it's almost a necessary evil, but Um, and I wanted to do an older Harley. Everyone complains to me, well, why didn't you do a younger Harley? Because this is a woman who, by the time she gets into a medical industry, is going to have her master's, possibly her PhD. She's not going to be some spring chicken. She's going to be a seasoned, mature female. And we wanted to display that. And I think it makes her character much more relatable. We also wanted to have the relationship with the Joker, but we wanted to flesh it out to just be beyond him kind of, because I think everyone defaults to Mark Hamill now, and he does a phenomenal
Hmm.
job. So we wanted to really break free from that and also explore her relationship with Ivy in a tasteful, non-exploitive way. And I think we accomplished that too. We also wanted to show a darker Batman, a Batman who's on the edge of kind of crossing that line, that one bad day, as Joker said. And we wanted to present Selina as almost like his conscience. So we wanted to have strong female characters, but we wanted to have them do take the hero's journey. Because a lot of
Hmm.
times both male and female characters are just overpowered. There's no hero's journey. They're just bam, they have all these powers. Bam. We wanted to show the frailties, the mistakes, and all that. So yeah, I'm really proud. We did a whole different Joker. We wanted to do. I never liked the idea of him falling in the vat of acid. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So we wanted to take his character in a different direction while keeping that psychosis. We wanted to make Arkham, Doctor Arkham, the main villain of the story, which Rob Kellum did such an amazing job. Fennell did an
Amazing.
amazing job. Yeah, he was incredible. I mean, Rob, when he's on set, he's whatever character, he's his character. Fennell Godbold from Nashville, from she's a former police negotiator. She helped solve one of the biggest murder cases in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Wow.
She's yeah, she just was is expert marksman, expert investigations. She played Harley. That's the girl we had to play Harley. So she was giving all this authenticity to the investigation and all that. And then Crystal Cleveland playing Ivy was, I mean, that's a duck cast. Crystal is such an amazing actress. I really would like to see Crystal do Oscar caliber roles because she has that ability. Crystal is so talented. When you see her get into her mode, oh my God, she's just so good. And she's not what you'd call seasoned. She started out kind of later in life, but my God, she's one of my favorite actresses. She was in Dusk. She was in Devil's Daughter, and then she moved. Hopefully, put her in something else. But I would like to put Crystal in a movie like Steel Magnolias, or a movie like of that nature where it's a drama, a serious drama,
Hmm.
because I think she hasn't had a chance to really explore her range yet. But once she really does that, I think people are going to be like, where has this person been? I mean, Fennell's already done that with her range. Rob has done it. I try to not typecast him as a villain because that he loves those roles, but I like Rob being a good
Yeah.
guy too. But he loves being a villain. But the entire cast was amazing. The entire cast was amazing. Heather Six, who played Catwoman, I mean, completely owned the role. And again, very little direction. Like I sat down and said, "Here's what I want," and everyone just gave me what I wanted. So it was fantastic.
And you were saying you filmed this on a $27,000 budget, which was
Twenty-seven thousand
absolutely
dollars.
amazing.
Yep, yep. And
But it also shows too. I'm sorry, go,
no, no, go. You finish.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I'm about to say, it also shows too, you know, you have a great script and you have a small budget, but the actors and actresses are important, who you cast in because the acting in this is top notch. I remember like off the top of my head, there was a scene where Harley Quinn is in college and there's a creepy professor. It makes her skin crawl.
Oh
Like
yeah, Clam
it
did
makes
fan.
her skin crawl.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that that's actually a lot of the stuff you see a good comes directly out of the comics. I actually studied every multiversal version of Harley and kind of put them into one. So Clam, I don't know if he read the comic, but I kind of laid it out for him, and he said, "Can I kind of try something?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And as soon as he did it, I'm like, "You are the cringiest person I've ever met. Do that." And you know, he just owned it. And Lillian Barber, who plays young Harley, their chemistry was and they had never worked together before. That was just
Well,
that was that Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder kind of chemistry. It just came together. and they were fantastic. And
On a
I
creepy
will tell
level. Yeah.
I will tell you that the scene, the brutal scene that's in that, the reason why there was a more extensive scene. We only did it in one take. That was one take. We could not do another take. Emotionally and mentally doing that scene, which I will never do another one, took a toll on the actors, the crew, myself. We just said, okay, we're gonna minimize this because I think we can do less with more. Because when you see it acted out, if you have to be absolutely dead inside, not for you to have a visceral reaction of this toxic mess of anger, sorrow, and absolute depression. And so we did the one take, and I'm like, you know what, guys, we got this. I'll do something in
Yeah.
post because I can't do another. I don't. I think it become exploitive.
It was too
But
real. It was too real.
and
It
we
was
wanted to
too
go
real.
for that. Hindsight being 2020, would I do something that real again? Absolutely not. I think you could do more with kind of the like the blob essence where you know what's going on. But
Hmm.
we really wanted to show because as you know we were raising money for Gracious Hands. We wanted to show people this because a lot of times films almost make that type of scene sexual, and that's not what it's about. It's a violation. It takes everything from that individual. And so
Hmm.
we wanted to create that, and we did a little too well. And I will never film. I will never film or write another scene like that again as long as I live. It was too real. And then um, on top of that, a couple years later, my daughter was sexually assaulted by her best friend. So you
Wow.
know, and yeah, it's there's a special kind of director and writer who can do that on the regular, like whoever writes SVU. I couldn't. It gave me nightmares. And I am very proud of Clam, and that shows you how much trust Lil had in Clam because they they constructed that scene, and there was such a trust, and Clam was so careful, and I mean I know it looks brutal, but he was so careful and so compassionate with her,
But
and she
even
was
like
so
even the lighting in that scene, it's just
yeah.
everything was disturbing. Like it
Yeah, it
was.
was yeah, it's yeah, yeah, it was and then, the scene with the mother, the scene where it's evident that she had been beaten,
Yes.
we did that all with sound because to me, the 2 greatest senses besides sight are smell and sound. You could smell something and have an immediate memory of grandma's kitchen or, a favorite, fair memory you had or something like that. With sound, I don't know you know this, but The Exorcist actually put in subliminally sounds to their movie. There was bees, there was I think dogs barking, there was a pig getting slaughtered.
Hmm.
They actually interlaced that in the soundtrack because they knew those sounds would disturb people, and so we wanted to make the sound visible and not show what happened, and then you see the after effects um, because again, you want to portray the abuse, but you don't want to romanticize it or
Hmm.
exploit it. So those were all tough scenes for us. But and then of course the coach scene when she's a gymnast. Again,
Yes.
Jesse did a
In the
phenomenal
beginning.
job. Yeah, Jesse did a phenomenal
Hmm.
job at Lowell on that. And again, that's a trust thing. And everything that we did, we check with Lillian. Lillian, are you okay with this? Because even though she had the script, we're getting ready to do the scene. Let's do a little blocking. Make sure you're okay with this. Is this okay here? Is it okay here? Because mentally, you can. I mean, if you remember the story of what Kubrick did to Shelley Duvall, where he traumatized her. She
Hmm.
was traumatized. I don't want to do that to my actor. If I have to do that
Yes.
much to get what I need out of my actor, either I'm failing as director or I have the wrong actor. Not slighting Stanley Kubrick, one of my favorite directors of all time,
Hmm.
but I do believe you have to be very careful because people have trauma. And once you bring that out, it's a Pandora's box. You may
Hmm.
not be able to put that back in the box. And I don't want to do that for film. And that's why some of the more gory horror films I don't like because I think what happens is it becomes gore porn and it's no longer frightening. It's just, ooh, that's cool. I want my horror films to be go, oh God, ugh, I don't want to think about that again. That's what I'm looking for, you know?
Well, I can say the same thing, and he's probably never going to come on my show, so I can say this. But Terrifier 2, like people say that they love Terrifier 2, and to me, that woman, I mean, that movie screams, "I hate women." It really does. It
Yeah,
screams, "I hate women." It screams, Damien Leone has a problem with women, like because the way that women are killed in that movie, in those movies, it's who can watch that and like actually enjoy
yeah,
it.
yeah. You know, it a film. I will tell you, as a director, um, films do tell our stories. So with Harley, I am a product of emotional and physical abuse. So I could relate to that character. So a lot of the stuff you see in Harley are questions I've asked myself, you know, trying not to become a villain because of my trauma, trying to use my trauma as something positive, trying to be better than the people who abused me. I agree with you that sometimes I watch films and I wonder when it's not just one scene, when it's multiple scenes, what's
Hmm.
going on. And what bothers me more is an audience that almost has a worship of a film. I mean,
Over.
obviously, I want my films to be taken that, but you look at the thing is held up because it's a movie about absolute isolation. It's a movie about not trusting everybody, which is one of our greatest fears as humanity. And there's no escape. So it's got that hopelessness. Alien did the same thing. But it's you still there's that human triumph element. And I don't think horror should
Hmm.
have happy endings, but there's still that human triumph element. You look at The Shining again, it's almost like a modern day Aesop fable, like a horror Aesop fable. When you get into gory films like Terrifier 2 and some of the slashers, um, it's almost like an amusement ride. And so for me, I don't get the enjoyment of that. I want that kill to really affect me as far as scare me. And I said I want to be disgusted and scared, but at the same token, there is a line,
Hmm.
and I don't slight anybody who watches Terrifier because cinematically, the acting. I mean, the gentleman who plays the clown, I can't think of his name, Art the
Art the
Clown,
Clown. Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. Anybody who could pull that off without any dialogue and make it be that menacing, dude, kudos. You know,
Yeah.
standing O. But you're right. I don't want to see a girl cut in half with a chainsaw and that scene take minutes. But that's just my preference. But I do have a question of the guy who wants to watch that because you know we like us, you know, the kill and oh my god and all that. You know,
I love a good Michael Myers
yeah,
or a
yeah,
Halloween. I
exactly. But
love that stuff. But you got to stop for a second and you got to start thinking. Terrifier 2, I want to watch one time. It's a movie. Somebody said, "What's one horror movie that you wouldn't want to watch the second time?" It's Terrifier 2,
I haven't gotten through
because
yet.
because because if you own that movie and you're watching that multiple times, I think you need to go see a psychiatrist or something, because I'm being dead serious. You're going down a slippery road that
Yeah,
because it's not entertainment, it's not scary, it's just women getting tortured in awful ways for almost 3 hours.
yeah,
Like,
no. There's a movie I forget what it's called, and it actually they did it before Terrifier, and they have a similar scene, and the scene takes 2 minutes, 2 full minutes, and it's the film has been banned in multiple countries because it just looks like a snuff film.
hmm.
It's obviously fake, but you look at Human Centipede. That's not a film. I don't want to watch people pooping in each other's mouths. That does, you know, I get the again going back to what I said. I want to discuss and scare people, but that's not my kind of film. So it really is preference.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I think at some point you have to ask, why am I making this film, and what is the horror tapping into? Because horror is personal. Horror is personal. The strongest force in the universe is fear. If
Hmm.
you think about loneliness, comes about because loneliness is formed by the fear of not having someone. I mean, love is the byproduct of fearing of being alone. So you don't want to be alone, so you go to love. Hate is fearing change or fearing someone else. Form of racism. Um, uh, uh, Success comes from a fear of failure, right? So
Hmm.
fear is the strongest force in the universe. It taps into all of us. Everybody has fear. I don't even a serial killer, the worst serial killer in the world, fears something. So when you're making a horror film, you are putting your signature on that, and there's some part of you in that. Now people can say, "Well, Ron, you had this awful scene in Devil's Daughter, and that is the product of somebody who has been abused, who's trying to tell you the story of how awful abuse is." I don't know what cutting a woman in half like that says, like you said, and this is what you open yourself up to as director, and you can't be offended by it, you can't be hurt by it. It may say, I think that person has a problem with women, or I think that person has some dark secrets that they're
Some
keeping,
mommy issues or
mom
something.
daddy issues. You're putting it all out there, and directors who get upset by that, you have to understand, when you see a picture hanging on the wall, the artist has one idea, but he also knows that everyone who looks at that photo, or that portrait, is going to walk away with their own interpretation. They may have the general, but they're also going to have their own personalized interpretation. And so we have a great responsibility as filmmakers, that we're making films that we have to make sure we respect our audiences and really think through, why am I making this scene?
Hmm.
Now, I will tell you, I have friends who love Terrifier, love it.
Me too.
I don't get it. I don't besmirch them for it, but I haven't been able to get through it. I also can't get through the original Pet Cemetery. As soon as they get to the point where the kid's about to get hit by the thing, too close to home, can't go,
Mhm.
can't do it. Um, and
I'll
I've
go
been
see Terrifier 3. I mean, I'll go see Terrifier
Oh yeah,
3,
I'm
like I
sure you
told
will.
you.
Yeah, because we have
I'll go
to.
see it.
Because
But it's something that I wouldn't rewatch.
no,
It's
I
one time.
yeah, I
It's
have
one time.
Event Horizon is by far, in my mind, one of the best horror movies ever made.
It is.
I have seen it once. It fucked me up. I will never see it again.
Seen it once.
So
That's
no,
it.
but I will tell. I'll be the first one to recommend it to people.
Hmm.
And the hell scene was actually 3 minutes long, and they cut it down to get the theatrical release. You would think that the director would keep that footage if they were that committed to it, but
Hmm.
he dumped it. And my thought is, he probably dumped it because, like, ooh, I'm going to places that I don't need to go
Yes.
to. That may be more about me than the movie. But it's a phenomenally constructed. It's one of Lawrence Fishburne's best movies.
I think so
Um,
too.
just amazing. It's amazing. It's what's his name? Sam.
Sam Neill.
Thank you. It's one of Sam Neill's best movies, because Sam Neill did
Hmm.
Into the Mouth of Madness, which is also a phenomenal film. But uh, again, I won't see it again. I cannot watch the Freddy Krueger movies because I don't like innocent teenagers being slaughtered for no reason, and being slaughtered by a pedophile. So that bothers me. Now, it's not meant to be that film, but
Hmm.
for me, it is. You know, so I don't let my trigger ruin it for everybody else. But let's just call it honest. It's about a pedophile killing children for no reason. It also makes me laugh. A lot of my Star Wars friends get mad at me, who dress up like stormtroopers and as imperial people, and I'm like, you do know what George Lucas was doing with the whole Darth Vader thing. It wasn't supposed to be. It's about Nazis, just so you know.
I
So,
love the movie Hostel. I love Hostels. My
oh,
favorite
okay,
movie ever.
okay, yeah,
But at the same time, the movie kind of fucked me up because it's about young guys who are traveling, chasing after tail, and get tortured and killed.
yeah,
And that was me at one point. So like that, that scared the
yeah.
shit out
It
of me.
hits home. It hits home. So
Yeah.
yeah. Alien. I love what Geiger tried to do with that. He wanted to make men understand the uh, the kind of awfulness of assault. So we have face huggers,
Hmm.
and we have the birthing, and that was done incredibly creatively, and it was also done subtly. That's another thing that I think you hit on. We've lost. That's why we're trying to go back with your it. we've lost subtlety. We over explain, we over exploit, we don't know how to trust the audience. And I don't care if you're millennial, Gen X, Gen Z, Alpha, I don't like thinking my audience is stupid.
Hmm.
And if there is somebody who is unable to get my movie, they're not supposed to be there anyway.
Yep.
So I want to be able to make my audiences think. And Saw was a prime example of that. It was a horror movie that had an actual story to it. And I can't watch the Saw movies. They make me, and
I
I
can't
know
watch
they're
them.
fake effects, but but they're phenomenal. I don't know about all of them, but the first one, let's just do that one. Final Destination again, phenomenal concept. It didn't overpreach it. It just did this whole thing about, you never know how you're going to die. It's the scariest part of death is the uncertainty of it.
Hmm.
That's the scariest part. Yes, the death part is awful, but the anticipation, the uncertainty of it. So those are great subjects. Watching a girl get hacked in half from her privates down to her neck, that's not subtle. Now,
Naked.
it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
naked.
exactly. But there is a subset of films, Pooh, Love and Blood and Honey, Terrifier 2. There is a subset of films that do that. There's also a subset of films called the slow burn. I Those drive me crazy too. I get it because it's small budget films. They don't have a lot of money for the effect, so they try to put in as much story to fill in that space. When they get the effect, you get your money's worth. There are some good ones, some bad ones. I know friends of mine who will not watch slow burn. I like slow burn horror. I love slow burn, but I'm a storyteller, and
Hmm.
that's why I like it. So preference is key, but I do agree with you. You have to be careful when you're a director because this opens up and spills out onto the page and into the screen. And you can't be afraid to have people say, I've had plenty of people who've told me they don't like The Devil's Daughter. They've given me multiple reasons. Yeah, it hurts because every movie you make is like a child.
Hmm.
But at the same token, one, if the criticism is legit, I take that to be a better movie maker. And if it's not legit, if you can't do the troll thing, you shouldn't be doing this. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to take that criticism. And it's funny though, everything is so polarized. Movies are too. If you like, there doesn't need to be two camps, anti Terrifier, pro Terrifier. But it's funny. You can't have a discussion about, well, I really like the movie. Oh my God, you didn't like Terrifier? Or
Yep.
you have the guy going, oh my God, you like Terrifier? Just everybody chill. Just everybody chill.
Hmm.
It's a movie. Chill.
Listen, anybody who likes Terrifier, I have no issue with you
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
at all. It's just that I don't get. I mean, listen, part one was a piece of crap to me. Part two was great. Part two
Yeah.
was good. Part two was good. I mean, part one was just no story. It was just
Yeah.
hacking. It was just I couldn't finish part one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like part two, I went to the movie theaters. I supported it. I support any indie
Yeah.
horror movie, um, except for that Winnie the Pooh shit. I wasn't going to even
I
support my.
watched it once.
That
It's a
was
terrible
definitely a
movie.
cash grab. That was
It,
definitely a
it,
cash
it,
grab.
it's a terrible movie. I respect the guy for making uh, uh, being able to pull it off. I mean, you just got
Hmm.
to give that props, but it's absolutely terrible. Again, I say that, and there will be people who will scream at me, going, "I love that," and it's
People
that
love it.
polarizing. Yeah, and it's okay. Just everybody chill. But it's like what you were saying. You don't like it, but I guarantee there are 10 people be like, "Oh my God,
People
he didn't
love
like that."
Terrifier.
They're blowing up your comments. Yeah,
And do
like
you know
chill.
and do, and do you know who loves the Terrifier movies more than anyone? Women.
Yeah, yeah,
I've done numerous interviews where I've had women on, ask them who's their favorite horror movie character, and they all say Art the Clown, and I'm like,
and
interesting.
I tell you what I think that is, and I'm not the psychology of it is I think we tend to gravitate to horror films that scare us the most because if we're able to overcome that fear, it's almost like an unconscious or subconscious win. So, and I haven't got that win with Pet Cemetery yet because I can't
Yeah.
get to them. But um, I used to be afraid of everything. I hated horror films. Now I actually love them because I was afraid of everything as a child. And as I grew to embrace horror films and understand how they were made, understand the mythos of it, and built up this kind of courage toward it, and then actually enjoyed it, that's what makes horror so special. You can have dramas, oh, they made me cry, The Notebook, blah, blah, blah. You can have action flicks, oh, I love John Wick and all the guns. But
Hmm.
horror very personal. Horror is like going to see your therapist.
It
You
is.
know, it's very, very personal. So whether you make it or not, and it's hard to make scary things because another thing is people are becoming so desensitized. That's what I'm saying. If you can't freak them out with Terrifier, what the hell is the next thing? I mean,
It's killing people on live TV. That's what it.
yeah,
That's
well,
what's the
God
next
forbid.
thing.
But I mean, would people
Yeah.
even be affected by that? That's my question. Would people even be affected by that? I remember when E Bombs World came out prior to the YouTube craze, they had videos of. I remember one in particular, a guy got arrested. He brought a gun into the room. They didn't know it, and he blew his brain out. And you saw it. I mean, it was the first time I ever saw that on video, minus Face of Death, which was fake. But I'm like, oh my god, and I mean, it affected me. You show that nowadays, kids be like, oh, that's so cool. Did you see?
Nothing.
It's just, and it's. I'm not blaming the kids. It's just we have become desensitized. I don't know. They just announced aliens exist. There was like, when's the Barbie movie coming out? I mean, nobody cared. You remember they told us all growing up, if we can't share the truth because people would panic and there would be upheaval and religion would be. Nobody cared. Oh, okay.
No, it is.
Yeah, people are worried about their rent right now and
Yes.
making ends meet. If the aliens come down, listen, if they give us jobs, we're good for it. Maybe they'll fix the healthcare system. I don't know, but if they blow up the IRS, I'm all for it. But it's just funny, and we've become desensitized. And for horror makers, um, what you have to do now is tap into the psychology, and that is a dangerous place to go. I saw a great film called Nightmare Alley. It's a Del Toro flick, and it's phenomenal. It's not a horror film. It's a very dark, just a dark tale. Well done.
Oh, it's the one with Bradley
Uh,
Cooper.
Yes,
Yes, I
please
saw that.
see it.
Great.
Oh, you saw?
Yes.
Okay, phenomenal. But again, it goes back to the fact of the reason why he goes off track, not only because he's an awful human being, but remember he gets into the spiritual. Like, don't do that because when you start tapping into that really intimate stuff, is when, and of course, that I'm not going to spoil it, but bad things happen. When you're doing horror, you have to be very careful because again, you're opening. People don't realize how important horror is and how dangerous it is if if you're somebody who can manipulate people. Horror can be a phenomenal way to screw people up,
It can.
and I think people are. And see, the problem is we're also triggering more. That I think that while you do have Terrifier 2, which is gore porn, you're not seeing as many really, really driven movies because everyone's afraid they're going to offend somebody. Um, uh, the gentleman who developed who
Jordan
did
Peele.
Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele was the first one in a long time to say, you know what, F it, I'm going to make films that are going to piss people off. And Get Out was the first one, and it was a phenomenal, phenomenal story, and it addressed very sensitive issues. Right? Nope, another one. It addressed family dynamics. Right? Not a great film.
Not a great film. Yeah.
It could have been. It could have been. It was
I'm not a
Jaws in
Jordan Peele
space.
fan. I'm
And
not a Jordan Peele fan.
well,
I love Get Out. I love Get Out. After that,
but the thing is, what I like about Jordan Peele is he's fearless when it comes to talking about issues that everyone seems to be pulling back on. Like we always have, oh, the kid is tormented by the parents and like Cobweb, and then you get the let's do some really disturbing horror where we attack a lot of this stuff. And let's face it, one of my favorite scenes, and it's a horrible movie, is a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre where he ends up on the bus and the guy goes, I'm going to cancel you.
yes,
And I was like, does that not encapsulate? Because
yes,
people would do that. That's like,
yes.
we really need to. And I think the way to, because we are so polarized nation, this is going to sound really, really kind of extravagant, but the way I think we bridge some of these gaps is through horror. I think through horror, we can have serious discussions or generate serious discussions about the things that are dividing us as a country of people through horror because we all can relate to horror. And I think there's directors out there that could do it. I don't know if I'm going to be that director. Um, Your It is a good story, but I don't think I think it has it's the story of well, it's got kind of a cool little twist to it, but it doesn't have anything powerful. I have two other scripts that are directly written to address things. I am very scared to put them out because I'm afraid if I do, you know, will I get canceled because I'm having honest conversations with people.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
be
we
on YouTube saying that you hate women, right?
exactly. So and I've been a victim of cancel culture. I've had some awful accusations made about me by people who just want to hate. And
Hmm.
the problem with social media is it's the court of public opinion. There's no ramification, no accountability, and so people could say whatever they want. And we have this great invention that could be used for so many good things, and yet it's used for so many awful things.
Influence.
But I do think horror is the way to restart real conversations about what we're going through as a people and show us the worst that could happen. So we go, no, we don't want that. That's why horror should not have a happy ending. Horror should be crap. I don't want to ever put myself in that situation. It's supposed to be a warning. It's supposed to show you that there are things out there that can hurt you, and you have to make smart choices. Because you notice in most horror films, they make
And
good choices.
that's why I love Eli Roth as a director.
Phenomenal
His
director.
movies are literally, this is what you don't do.
Yep.
When you travel abroad, people don't like Americans in other countries. I don't care
Yep.
what country you go. And I've been to countries, other countries, lived in other countries. They do not. Yes, they like our money, but they don't like Americans. We're the most hated people in the world. We just are.
Yeah.
And there's good reason for it sometimes. But you can't just go to another country and think that you can go away home with someone or something like that. It's
No.
dangerous. It's
No.
100% dangerous.
Yep.
And I even love what he did in Green Inferno. Where
That was a phenomenal tale of how Westernization has completely blinded us to the fact of lack of respect for other cultures.
you see missionaries who go to Africa, and you see Peace Corps who's going to God knows where. A lot of these places don't want your help.
They don't want you there. No, they don't.
They don't want your help.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
And in American culture, we have this savior complex that we're supposed to go and save other people, and mostly people don't want our help.
No. And meanwhile our country is falling apart because we're not trying to save internally. So,
Hmm.
but no, that's horror is the modern Aesop fables. If you look at Aesop fables, if you look at the old fairy tales, they're not happy tales. Cinderella, the sisters cut their feet off to try to get, or cut their toes to try to fit their slippers. Red Riding Hood, the wolf kills people. Humpty Dumpty is another example. Even some of the songs you grew up with, Ring Around the Rosie, again, these songs were supposed to be warnings. They were morality tales. And so we don't have fairy tales anymore. We have horror. Horror is the equivalent of that fairy tale, that Aesop fable, that morality tale that says, we're trying to tell you not to do this. It's not just about, um, you know, a killer on the loose, but, and that's why I think people, although they like slashers, I do think people tend to gravitate more to the more Aesop fable story, horror story, because it is
I
a
prefer
warning
them
tale.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and I
warning.
prefer them too compared to like a Terrifier, where it's innocent people who are not doing nothing. But like, if you look at the '80s slashers, like a lot of Christians do not like horror movies. I'm one
No,
of the few Christians that do, right?
me too.
And they say, "Oh, disgusting." But if you look at it, horror movies from the '80s kind of follow Christianity pretty close on what not to do, and
If
it's telling teenagers what not to do. Not to have premarital sex. Premarital sex leads to death. Don't do drugs.
yeah,
You'll die.
yeah,
Don't be an asshole. You'll
no,
die. Don't be a slut. You'll
greedy,
die.
glutton. It's amazing how many of the seven deadly sins are contained in horror films.
Then, then the only one I can't understand is being black. Then being black, you're gonna die in those movies too. So that's
Well, normally I need to watch. There's a movie called The Blackening. I think it's called The Blackening. Have you heard that? The one where they do kind
yes,
of all the
yes.
tropes. I want to watch that because it looks hilarious. But um, you're 100% right. As a Christian and almost a Christian filmmaker, I will tell you most horror films tell a better Christian story or a better morality story than Christian films. And
Because who's the one who survives in majority of horror movies? It is the virgin girl who doesn't do any drugs, who doesn't swear. She's a Christian, very, she's a prude. She's the one who survives
Right. Or
in
the
most
person,
horror movies.
or if they die with integrity, like they
Yes.
don't fall for the trap, and they die with a sense of peace. Now there are some that get their comeuppance, and again, that's a great morality tale of if you, there's like you can't. It goes back to you cannot escape accountability, and
Hmm.
that's a huge theme throughout all horror film is you're not going to escape accountability. You let the kid drown, the mother's killing you all because you let her kid drown.
Hmm.
Accountability, you know. Um, Nightmare on Elm Street was kind of different than that. Michael Myers again. We let the crazy person out. Accountability.
Hmm.
And even Aliens is a prime example of greed. That's why we have the alien thing. In the thing, it's the fact that um, carelessness and that mistrust. So horror brings out the truth about who we are. In those situations we're most afraid, in those survival situations, you see the person who they are stripped down of all of those facades, and you get to see that person. That's another thing horror does that Christian films don't do.
Hmm.
So I agree with you, and I get a lot of flack for being a Christian who makes. I mean, my wife especially, she doesn't like that I make horror films. She much rather I make Christian films. I
I,
haven't I
I've
haven't
had
found a
this
Christian
thing.
script I like yet.
I've,
I know.
I've had this debate with people all the time, and they were like, they don't see my point. I'm like, if you look at horror movies, it says, don't pick up hitchhikers, which is just stuff like that,
Yeah.
and it's just stuff that like any parent will tell their child.
Yep. And
They will
that's
tell
what the
their
fairy
child
tales did.
not
And
to
that,
have
yeah, yeah,
premarital sex, not to do drugs,
yep,
not to be an asshole or a bad person, not to be a slut, not to pick up hitchhikers,
yep.
not to go to
Horror,
parties, not to be doing underage drinking.
right?
All that
Watch,
stuff in a
yeah,
horror movie gets you killed as a
right,
teenager.
yep. And the thing is, if you think about it, this goes back to primitive man, where they were writing, warnings on the walls and cave drawings and telling these stories, the folklore that passes down from generation to generation. That's what we're doing with horror. We're continuing that tradition of that folklore of saying it's a warning, it's a message, and it's entertaining, but real solid horror goes back to exactly what you said. It goes back to that morality tale. It's that tale of don't do this or this will happen. That to me is real horror. Real horror gets in your head and sticks with you, not in a sense of just, oh my God, that was gross, but of,
Hmm.
oh my God, what happens if I was in that situation? Or I
Yeah.
can't believe that character died, or was there any way that person could be redeemed? Those are important parts. And so that's the kind of horror I try to make. With The Devil's Daughter, we wanted to show Harley is not the hero. We wanted to really put an exclamation point on she could have went a different way. She could have
Hmm.
taken that trauma and helped people with that trauma, but she allowed it to become such a darkness in her soul that she sought out another being that would justify her her darkness, which was the Joker. How many times do we talk to five people? Four of them will give us the same advice. We're going to go with the fifth person because they give us the advice we want to hear. And I'm fortunate I've got a friends will tell me to go take a freaking hike if I'm telling them something stupid. I've got some great, no shit friends. And we all need that. It's more
Yes.
prevalent in guy society, unfortunately, because guys know how to tell each other, that's stupid, dude. Don't do that. But but that's what Harley's about. It's she could have, but she didn't. And it goes back to Batman in that last moments. Batman has a choice of going full on, and he still holds back.
Hmm.
And uh, that's an important story. Arkham manipulating people, representing kind of the person that is having an effect over us. And in the story, Harley gets her revenge, but does she really? Because Arkham still wins because he drove her to a point of doing something that was horrendous. So that was the point of Harley. So Harley is a horror story in a sense, but I would call it more of a psychological thriller in the sense that we try to really explore those issues. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but she does something to the only real hero of the film she ends up doing something awful to. And that was the one person that probably could have pulled her out of her darkness. But again, she proved that her option was to become evil. And then at the end, you see the cost of that. Just when
Hmm.
she thinks she reaches her apex, you realize that that is an empty, hollow win. It's really not a win; it's actual loss. It's a bigger loss
Hmm.
than you even anticipated, and that's what horror is. So yeah,
100%.
yeah, everybody gets killed, and you're like, oh, what's the moral? Well, yeah, it's there are choices and all that, but it goes to again this killer whose entire existence is just evil, and so they have nothing else. So not to show sympathy to the villain, but you get the fact that they didn't win either. They
Hmm.
didn't win. They didn't resolve anything, and they're just going to have to keep killing because they have this void that they can't fill any other way, and that's the biggest tragedy. Not just what they're inflicting, but this is somebody who's living hell before they get to hell. You know?
Every good horror movie, I always say, has a something you take away from it, has a good message. If you don't have
Agree.
if you didn't get the message of a horror movie, it wasn't probably a good one.
No, 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 no. You're right,
Yeah.
and there's plenty of them out there that do that. And there's some that have great stories that are poorly executed. Thinner is one of my guilty pleasures with Stephen King, and the story is fantastic. Now it's kind of corny. It's 80s horror, but I really enjoy that movie because it has such a great morality tale, and at the end has such a really kind of kick butt ending. And then the same thing with the Dead Zone. Again, no happy ending. Something is thwarted, but there's still a cost.
Hmm.
And in that story, it's what would you do to stop something awful? Would you go all the way? And most people wouldn't. And the hero at the end is not the hero. He'll be known as the villain, but he really was a hero. So it addresses that too. How do we define hero and villain? That's no one wants to talk about that, but you know, those guys, in certain countries, the terrorists are the villain, right? Because they're
Hmm.
doing stuff. But then you look at the terrorists, and they're doing that because they feel they're oppressed.
They're the
Their
hero.
methods are horrific. They should not be doing that. But in order to beat an enemy, you have to understand an enemy.
Hmm.
You know, the biggest stupidest thing we ever did, and I'm not a big fan of his, but when Bill Maher got canceled because he said the terrorists were smart, and everyone's like, "Oh, we need to cancel him," and he made yeah, these guys
They're
knew what the hell
smart.
they were doing. Again, I'm not a big fan of Bill Maher's, but it just goes to show you again what I said to you earlier. We can't ask questions anymore, and the reason why humanity advances and evolves is because the ability to ask questions and seek answers. If we cut that out, we stagnate as a culture. We die as a culture.
But other thing in this culture too, you cannot have your own opinion.
No, no,
You
no. On
cannot.
either side, no. It's
You
sad.
cannot have your, if your opinion differs from anybody else's,
Yep, that's
you're an
that
asshole.
polarization I'm
You're an
talking about.
asshole.
Yeah, and that's you can have intelligent debates, and there used to be and I know you've heard it, to disagree agreeably, right?
Hmm.
I have Christian friends, I have atheist friends, I have conservative friends, I have liberal friends. I'm a libertarian myself. All of my friends were able to have discussions and walk away okay from them, but that's the exception. That's not
You
the
can't do
rule.
that. You
I've had
cannot do
more
that.
people unfriend me because of a disagreement we've had. And I don't go on, like, if I disagree with somebody, I don't go on Facebook. Oh, I disagree with you. If I don't like something, I scroll by it. That's
Hmm.
I don't have to comment. I don't have to proselytize. It's funny because Christians are always blamed for evangelizing everybody, right? I would say that the majority of people who try to evangelize are not Christians. They're the
Yeah.
opposite, trying to pull you over to their way and zero tolerance on the fact that you have a different opinion. And just because you have a different opinion doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong. It actually may be the right opinion, but you just don't like it. And that's
Correct.
why I say everybody wants the truth until you get it. Then you
Yes.
don't want it anymore. So, and again, that's the thing that's addressed in horror films. Again, another key element of horror films is here's the truth. I don't want it, you know. So,
Well, Ronald, we went on a rant.
oh, sorry.
I'm pretty sure majority of my viewers have checked out, especially the Gen Zers.
Yeah.
They definitely checked out at this point, and the millennials too.
Like to keep my audiences riveted.
But it was an absolute blast.
Same here.
Everybody, actually, tell everyone where we can find you. I know you have a crowdfunding going on for your It, so tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
So we don't have a website. I know I'm kind of a boomer on this, but we use mostly Facebook. It's Be Your Own Hero Productions on Facebook. We're on Instagram as Be Your Own Hero Productions LLC. On TikTok as the same. So you can find all of our content there. You're It. We ran our first Kickstarter. It did not fund, so we're running a second one in October. But what's cool about the second one we're going to be running is we're actually offering a comic book with like a precursor comic book. So we have a really cool both Indiegogo and Kickstarter we're going to be running in October for You're It, and I feel like once we run those, we'll be able to get the final funding to start the film. That, by the way, stars two Walking Dead alumni, Amber Dawn Fox and Santiago Cirillo are both going to be in it in really cool parts. So we're really honored to have them in it. Stroh's is available on Amazon Prime. $1.99 episode. There's 3 episodes. We just finished shooting Rescue, which is a short film, part of an anthology series. As being a fan of Tales from the Crypt and Tales from the Dark Side and Twilight Zone, it's in that vein. That should be out, I'm hoping, by Christmas. You're It. It's going to start filming in January with a hopeful release date of October 2024. That's the hopeful. And you can watch Hunter, which is a project I work with Drock Media Films. That's on YouTube. It's on our YouTube channel as well. The Devil's Daughters on our YouTube channel. You can watch it for free. We have over 30,000 views so far, and it's won 28 awards, legitimate awards. So we're very proud of that. The last fan film I ever make, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So just if you follow the Be Your Own Hero Productions Facebook page, we always update it regularly with all the information. So when our next Kickstarter comes out, when the next film comes out, when we're releasing something, it all goes on there.
And guys, also check out Lake Hickory Haunt. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, and that's www.lakehickoryhaunts.com. And premiere haunt in the Carolinas.
Sounds badass.
Oh, dude, it's fantastic. I'm if I get some passes, I definitely want you to come, Travis. We'll go through it together because I can be your guide. It's phenomenal.
I'm gonna say, I don't know if you see my channel. I actually do walkthrough of haunted attractions.
I can make that happen. I'll talk to Ryan. I'll make that happen. Yep.
I will be there.
Yep. So it's you will walk away going, oh my, it's such an experience. It's unbelievable.
All right, guys. So check that out. Eventually, I'm gonna have a video of the Lake Hickory Haunt on the YouTube page. Ronald, it was a blast talking, man. It felt like we were old friends having a beer.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I really did enjoy it. So thank you.
Oh, I definitely want to have you on again when You're It is close to releasing.
Absolutely.
So go ahead and promote that.
And maybe we could have a couple of the stars on there too with me, yes. So we could have that full conversation.
Well, guys, if you like this video, if you like stuff like this, please hit that like and that subscribe button. All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.